Hello guys, today I'm going to talk about the non-alignment movement. And the most question is non-alignment movement still relevant today? Yes, the non-alignment movement is still relevant today. But before going to talk about that particular things, we should understand what is name, why it came into existence, and what are the main same objectives of non-alignment movement. Shortly, we should understand these things. That is the basic of non-alignment movement. As we know, the non-alignment movement, which was came into existence in the year 1956, the Bandung Conference, which was held in 1956, in which around 28 Afro-Asian countries were assembled, passed the resolutions and official from the non-alignment movement. So, especially the non-alignment movement is a forum of 120 member states of Afro-Asian countries that are not officially aligned with the US and USSR-led power blocs during the Cold War era. And its first APEC summit was held in 1961 in Belgrade. The main founder or chief exponents of non-alignment movements were Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Abdel Gamal Nasser of Egypt, Sukarno of Indonesia, Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia. And another question is that who first used the term non-alignment movement? The answer is V.K. Krishna Menon, who first used the term non-alignment movement in the year 1956 during his speech in United Nations General Assembly. Now, we should understand what are the main objectives of non-alignment movement. The thing is that why the non-alignment movements came into existence. What were the main purpose, objectives behind the formations of non-alignment movement? The main purpose or objective of non-alignment movement was to counter the balance, the rapid polarizations of the world during Cold War. The second objective is to end the colonialism. The pervasive colonialism rule and imperialism was strongly condemned and against by the non-alignment movement. And the non-alignment movement has emphasis to end the colonialism and imperialism system. The third most important objectives of non-alignment movement was to promote the economic growth among the nations, equal developments of all nations irrespective of poor, rich, small and bigger states. Fourth objective of non-alignment movement was to fight for the right to independent judgment during that time, especially the newly independent Asia African countries were suppressed, were precised by the developed countries in terms of determining its own foreign policy. So this system was against by the non-alignment movement. The another most important objectives of NAM was to against the apartheid, racial discrimination. Racial discriminations or anti-apartheid was another most important objectives of non-alignment movement. Non-alignment movement always sought to eradicate such kinds of social evils. Another most important objectives of the non-alignment movement was to reform the UNSC, United Nations Security Council. As we know, there are 15 members in UNSC. 5 members are considered as powerful state and permanent members, and another 10 states are temporarily elected members. And those powerful and permanent 5 members enjoyed the veto power, and in most of the time those powerful states misuse this veto power to fulfill its own national interest, which was totally anti-democratic system, and this system was against by the non-alignment movement. Now the main question is that is non-alignment movement still relevant today? Yes, non-alignment movement is still relevant. The first thing is that the non-alignment movements represented the common interests and given priorities of the developing countries. Even at present time also, the developing countries are facing different kinds of geopolitical issues and that needs to be resolved. And in that case, the role of non-alignment movement is very significant. The another reason why non-alignment movement is still relevant. Non-alignment movements totally believe on the value of democratizations of international system. So, since its inception, the non-alignment movement has strongly against the anti-democratic elements in the international system. Even in present time also, this system is not reformed yet. So it is a high time to reform the UNSC, and it should be based on the democratic system and principles. Thirdly, why name is still relevant? Because the name has played a significant role during the Cold War, especially in terms of establishing or restoring world peace, progress, and prosperity. At the same time, to fulfill the interests of those deprived, developing, and underdeveloped countries. From that point of view, the role of name is still relevant. The another point is that NAM has struggled for restoring the international peace and prosperity. The fifth is that NAM and its principles, its ideas and visions, which chiefly aims to establish a peaceful and prosperous world order. It is still relevant. It is an the role of non-alignment movement is still relevant from this point of view. But we have observed that at the end of Cold War, the name has lost its relevance as compared to earlier. But if we see the present geopolitical issues of the world politics, the role of name is still relevant. We know the present political issue, even the present world moving towards the bipolarity led by US and Russia China. In that context also, the role of name is very significant. The another issue is the tension in Indo-Pacific regions. This is another burning issues at present time. The large-scale migration issues in Europe and ethnic conflict in different part of the world. So these are the burning issues we have observed in the present world politics. So in that situation, the role of non-alignment movement is still relevant. To resolve the global climate issue, as we know, global climate change and global warming issues are the top most burning issues. In such situation, NAM has to play a role in terms of resolving all those issues. And the NAM has to raise voice strongly against the UN reform system. And UN system should be reformed, and it should be based on the democratic system and principles. Last but not least, in the end, I would say the importance of non-alignment movement is still relevant. We can easily assume that non-alignment movement as a concept can never be insignificant because of its effective role played during the Cold War time, restoring the world peace and prosperity, stand for human rights, right to equal development, irrespective of small, bigger, rich, or poor countries, and so on. So, is still relevant today. Thank you.